Welcome to The Line. The corruption trial against former New Mexico State Senator Phil Griego began this week. Mr. Griego faces 6 felony and 2 misdemeanor charges, including counts of fraud, bribery, perjury, unlawful interest in a public contract, and violation of ethical principles of public service. Here with me to look at the significance of this trial are our Line opinion panelists, starting with Tom Garrity of the Garrity Group PR. Serge Martinez is here. He's a professor at the UNM School of Law. Our friend Vicki Harrison from Common Cause New Mexico is with us, and former state senator Diane Snyder. Thank you for being here, all of us. Now, we've been following this story, guys, since November of 2014, when an ethics complaint was filed against then Senator Griego over his profiting from a property sale. Now, that led to his resignation, as we all know, the following March, and the eventual criminal charges filed against him in February of 2016, and now we have a trial, Diane. You know, here's my overall question here. I'm just thinking about this and talking about this with our producers. Does this trial and Mr. Griego's situation signify a change, perhaps, in how we view corruption? What I mean by that is we have a new era of transparency we've ushered in here in New Mexico over the last 4 or 5 years. We've certainly got a golden era of reporting of a type we've never had before, reporting on these kinds of issues. And the public has sort of had it, it seems to me, with this kind of thing. Does this Mr. Griego's trial signify something to you? Is there something else going on here besides just the things I talked about?
Actually, Gene, I think there are a couple things going on. One is, yes, the public is very tired, and we're no longer accepting. We have greater media coverage than we've ever had in the past.
That's right.
One of the things that I find is that I think most legislators try to do and follow the law as best they can. I think in some ways, Senator Griego even tried to do that by not carrying the bill, by not discussing the bill on the Senate floor, by not voting on the bill.
That was a big part of his defense.
That's a big part of his defense.
That he walked out of the room when the bill was actually voted on.
Right,
so, yeah.
Because every legislator understands the conflict of interest.
Right.
The problem you run into is we're a citizen legislature and we're all working for a living.
Right.
And he is a real estate agent. So at what point, and I believe this is what the defense is using, is the timing of this. When did he know? Did he actively participate in making the changes and getting the bill passed and getting the building sold and then profited from it, from those actions? Or did he simply profit from it after the actions had taken place and he saw an opportunity?
Right.
We don't know that.
That's right.
And right now, I still believe that you're innocent until proven guilty. I'm having a little difficulty with this case based on what I've seen and heard so far. And also, if you remember, Senate Judiciary, Senate Ethics Committee took action against Senator before it ever brought to court.
That's right.
So the system itself was already working to take care of the problem. So I think that makes it harder for me because I was not in the Senate in 2015, but I did serve with Senator Griego and many of the people on Senate Ethics. And I know that if there was not hard evidence, they would not have taken that action against a colleague. So I think it will be very interesting to see if a jury of his peers also sees it that way. But right now, back to what you started out saying, he's being judged by the public, not by the jury.
That's a good point. Serge, I want to swing into you on that. Mr. Griego's attorney has said the same thing, that the court of public opinion has made this more difficult than otherwise it would be for the charges. Would you agree with that? Is there something unfair going on here?
I don't think there's anything unfair at all.
Right.
I mean, the charges are public, everyone knows what's going on. And when you mount a defense as, we didn't technically break any rules, right? Most people know that means there's something going on here, right? It's certainly not a resounding defense of, claim of innocence and lack of culpability.
That's right.
Relying on that sort of technical response is signals to everybody, okay, we're going to try to weasel out of this in the way that is the most legalistic and formalistic possible, rather than display that this was all above board, there's nothing to see here.
Well, it's interesting you put it that way. When I swing to you, Vicki, on this, because it would seem to be a fairly simple matter. As Diane laid it out, it's really not a complicated scheme, so to speak, this $50,000.
Right.
It was a straight-ahead real estate deal. It wasn't as if it was moving money from A to B to C to D, and then finally it ends up in some overseas account and Mr. Griego has access to it. But at the same time, there is a public will right now to say we have zero tolerance for anything, no matter what it looks like. Would you agree with that? Is the public just, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The public is absolutely done with politicians.
Right.
And it's unfortunate because we have a lot of really great politicians, but try to tell that to your average person and they are like, absolutely not. And, you know, we used to have this idea that, you know, everybody, you know, Congress is corrupt, except for my guy or my girl. They're okay. Yeah, that's gone away. And Congress has, you know, that rating in the teens has weaseled its way down to state and local government. And people just look at something like this and say, a politician making money.
That's right.
You know, but Diane made a very important point, and something that we say a lot is that conflicts of interest are built into our state legislature because they have jobs. We are a citizens legislature. All of these representatives and senators have a job. And so, you know, recusing yourself and making public around conflicts of interest needs to be much more above board. You know, if the senator took a walk on that bill because of that, he needed to make that known instead of, you know, jumping out the side door and running back in after the vote is.
Right.
So I think that, you know, we know their conflicts of interest are built in, but there are ways to go above and beyond what is required to make sure it doesn't look sketchy.
Gotcha.
Because the minute one person looks sketchy, the public just thinks you're all sketchy. And you know, I mean, the polling that we do, it's really depressing. I mean, the public seriously in New Mexico thinks that by far legislators are more responsive to industry, to lobbyists, to money than they are to their own voters. And we hear all the time, I hear from these guys right before they need to get elected again with some cheesy postcard telling me how awesome they are or how horrible the other guy is. And it's very unfortunate because we have a lot of really great legislators in New Mexico, and they're paying the price.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Tom, interestingly, another player in this is certainly Mr. Balderas and his charges. We've got a stack of them, almost 70, a little over 70 years worth of charges, actually, if they all, there won't, but if they all came in with a guilty charge. But Mr. Griego is 69 years old, and that would be a life sentence, basically. So I'm curious, and from all you guys, what is the right deterrent punishment here if we're going to think about this in the longer term for folks down the road? Is it locking up Mr. Griego for the rest of his life, or is it a bigger fine? I mean, what's the appropriate way to go here that's a deterrent?
Well, since the trial is still ongoing, you know, I don't think it would be appropriate to say, you know, here's what a punishment or, you know, stuff. But, you know, if you don't mind, I'd like to touch on what you started on earlier with respect to, you know, the general public. You know, the general public has had a increased distrust of state government officials over the last 7 years, and that has really grown exponentially. But right now, more people distrust state government officials as opposed to trust government officials. And so, you know, but yet during that same time, we've also seen the results of a lot of different, you know, government officials being caught in those, you know, being caught in the act, so to speak, whether it was in the state treasurer's office, a former Senate pro tem, or Secretary of State. So, you know, we've had enough there where you would think people are tired, but they're really not. I think that they've gone from the tired stage to the numb stage. You know, it's just at which point do they go, well, everything is like this. I can't change the system. And here's yet another reason why
I hear that a lot.
Why I don't like the two-party system. And so, you know, you basically, situations like this, unfortunately, you know, put all the good politicians into that same wheelbarrow. And, you know, they don't have really a shot because, you know, nobody's really talking about the good things that politicians do. So, you know, I think that, you know, we'll see what his jury of peers looks like. But, you know, if he's acquitted and he's found, you know, well acquitted of the charges rather, then, you know, I think that could be bad for Mr. Balderas because all of a sudden, you know, he spent all this money on something that a Senate Ethics Committee had already addressed. If it goes the other way, then maybe that would be an opportunity for a judge to send a message.
That's a good point.
I just want
Go,
to touch
please.
on
Absolutely.
the ethics committee, and they did address it, but one of the reasons why we pushed for an independent ethics commission, which will be on the ballot next year, vote for it.
Love it.
Is because the Senate Ethics Committee meets in secret. They don't publish anything. We didn't even know who was on the committee until that year. And for years it had been hidden on some website that, you know how people we put it on our website, but it's on an unpublished
But
link.
in that particular situation, though, Vicki, it worked.
Well, it did work to a point. I mean, again, it worked for the process, but not for the people, because it was not open to the public and nothing was released. Those are two things, I'm telling you, Tom, that the public has said over and over in our focus groups and polling is, we're not going to just trust them to do the right thing in a dark back room. We want to see it ourselves.
To have any and every ethics complaint brought to public, that's just a field day for the news media, to basically use that as grounds to say, oh, look, here's some information,
But that already happens. Because
not in a formal ethics process. No, I think
well,
it
and
just
it wouldn't
creates
go
an
all the way
opportunity
there.
for opponents to really get all negative. And we already have too long of a campaign season anyway. We open up the ethics committee into, basically a three-ring circus. And, you're going to have the campaign season start from the day one that somebody files an ethics complaint.
But that's already happening,
But
Tom.
don't we have
That's
an
what I'm
ethics
saying.
committee at the city, and they're not doing anything?
Well, we've got the
I
Secretary
don't-
of State's office,
I don't
and
know
that's
much
what's
about the
happened this
cities.
last year,
Right.
is we've had people file a complaint with the ethics with the Secretary of State's office, and then they turn around and send a press release to all their favorite reporters.
That's right.
And that has been happening for at least 10 years. So when I hear people say that, I'm like, it's already happening.
Yeah.
We're not saying that every single complaint is going to have a hearing. Only the ones that have been vetted. And I think that, again, but when you have something like this that's big, the public is not trusting the legislators, as you said. So why would they trust that a bunch of legislators did the right thing when they don't see it?
Good point. It's a good point, Serge. The idea that, again, for Mr. Balderas, there's something may stick here. I don't want to obviously try to predict a jury trial, but you never know. Sometimes you get everything you want. Sometimes you get very little of what you want. What are the ramifications for Mr. Balderas here?
Oh, I mean, I think it's conceivable, right, that he's taken a big risk, that squandering whatever political capital he
Right.
has on this. And I don't know the upside to him, right? I mean, Griego is not in politics anymore, not
That's
going
right.
to be. I trust that Balderas is, just trying to do the right thing here and see justice done.
That's right.
But I mean, I can certainly see a political risk to that extent. I applaud his decision to take this risk.
That's a good point.
If he thinks that this is the right thing to do and not just
Yep.
something.
I appreciate all y'all's points because it is going to come down to a jury of his peers. And, our opinion, anybody else's opinion doesn't mean anything. It's going to have to be those folks. And we'll see what kind of will these folks either have or don't have for this kind of thing. There's a message potentially they could send as citizens, but then also it could go the other way too. That's how jury trials work. That's all the time we have on that one. Now, when we come back to the line, we'll talk about the fallout from an amendment that reshaped New Mexico's bail system.